Why the system can never go back at this point? A natural question arises. Why not just reverse it? Why not return to sound money, reduce debt, and restore balance? Because the system crossed a one-way threshold. Modern economies are no longer built on production alone. They are built on expectations. Pensions depend on future growth. Stock markets price decades of profits in advance. Governments budget assuming tomorrow's taxes today. Cause effect future promises fund the present, removing them collapses confidence. Confidence is now the asset. In other words, the future has already been spent. The role of central banks from referees to architects originally, central banks were meant to be referees. They were supposed to control inflation, stabilize currency, act as lenders of last resort, but permanent crises change their role. They are no longer just managing money. They are managing outcomes. Markets no longer ask, is this asset valuable? They ask, will the central bank intervene? This single shift changed everything. Risk is no longer priced accurately. Failure is no longer allowed naturally. Success becomes increasingly detached from productivity. The architect rewards leverage, not patience. How crisis justifies control. Permanent crises creates a powerful effect. It suspends normal rules. It increases spending limits, disappear oversight, weakens emergency powers. They expand, and when crises never end, neither do the powers. Policies introduced as temporary become permanent fixtures. Quantitative easing, bailouts, debt monetization. The architecture quietly grows more centralized, not because of conspiracy, but because crisis demands speed, and speed demands authority. The psychological side, normalizing the abnormal. The most dangerous part of this system isn't financial. It's psychological. People adapt. Inflation becomes normal. Debt becomes necessary. Crises become expected. Each generation lowers its expectations, owning assets later, working longer, saving less. The architecture doesn't need force. It reshapes behavior. Freedom doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes gradually through dependency. Why permanent crisis benefits the system? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Permanent crisis creates demand. Demand for liquidity management, expertise, intervention. Entire industries depend on instability. Financial engineering. Risk hedging, crisis response. A stable system would shrink them. So the architecture evolves to prevent collapse, avoid resolution, extend uncertainty, not because it's evil, but because it's profitable. The illusion of choice. Citizens are often told they have options. Vote differently, spend differently, save differently. But within this architecture, choices are constrained. You can hold cash, gives inflation erodes. It invests, gives volatility increases. Avoid debt, gives fall behind every path. Loops back into the same system. This is not accidental. It ensures participation, not consent. The global dimension, no exit doors in the past. Nations could opt out. They could default, reset currency, withdraw from systems today. Everything is interconnected. Trade, finance, energy, technology, all tied together. Leaving the system now means isolation. And isolation carries immediate costs. So nations stay not because it works perfectly, but because leaving hurts faster. Repeating history, just faster. History shows us this pattern repeatedly. Lathe, Roman, Divacim, and Frenchis, Weimar. Inflation, each time. Crisis justified currency expansion. Expansion reduced trust. Trust collapse. Ended the system. Technology allows delays. Printing is digital. Intervention is instant. Narratives travel faster than reality. Collapse doesn't arrive suddenly. It stretches. What this means for the future permanent crisis doesn't mean the system will fail tomorrow. It means lower growth, higher volatility, reduced mobility, greater control. The architecture survives. The question is, at what cost and to whom? 3 additional takeaways. 1. Stability today is artificial. It is maintained, not earned. 2. Crisis is a governance tool. It accelerates decisions and centralizes power. 3. The system adapts faster than resistance. Understanding it matters more than fighting it blindly. Final tout, the real danger, the greatest risk isn't collapse. It's acceptance. When people stop expecting resolution, they stop demanding accountability. And when crisis feels permanent, control feels inevitable. But architecture can be understood, and what is understood can eventually be redesigned. Extended call to action. If this video challenged how you think about money, crisis, and power, stay with this channel. Because history doesn't repeat exactly, but financial systems always rhyme. And the earlier you recognize the pattern, the more choices you still have left.